best thing you can do is to squeeze the high performance of your body, is to really understand what you are eating and how it is going to impact your body. There is no such thing as universal healthy food or universal healthy supplement. And that is, if that's one message, Joe, we can get out to people is, you can't believe just because it worked for some other person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Just because it worked for you 6 months ago or 9 months ago doesn't mean it's no longer beneficial to you, or it is actually not harming you. And that is the key, is to know that our body is changing and adapting. And if you don't adopt our nutrition and our food with that, it is going to harm you.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe Desena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
What you eat can impact everything, from mood to energy to disease. Naveen Jain and Joe Desena talk about your gut microbiome, what it is, how it works, and what foods to eat for the best performance. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Gone Rogue high-protein chips. Visit Amazon or GoneRogueSnacks.com and use the promo code SPARTAN25 to get 25% off.
Joe Desena here, founder and CEO of Spartan. I got a special guest, my buddy Naveen Jain. He doesn't know it, but one of my other best friends' name is Jane, and I just do well around Janes. I don't know. I met this guy down at Necker Island with Richard Branson. He's a superstar. He's crushed it in life, multiple businesses, exits, you name it. This guy just gets it done. And now, I got a gut feeling here. That's an inside joke. He's focused on the gut. You focused on the gut?
That's right, brother. I'm looking at the gut and the body.
And how important is the gut? I mean, we treat ourselves like garbage pails. I try to talk to my kids. They want ice cream. They want this. They want that. We're taught at a very young age through commercials, through the shelves in grocery stores. Even parents. I mean, I fight with my own family over this. They just don't get it. They just put all kinds of crap into the bodies and expect high performing results. Tell us about this.
Well, so first of all, Joe, I want to thank you for amazing things that you do. And, we're going to have a deep conversation about the gut and the gut microbiome and what happens there, how it impacts not just what's happening in our stomach, but what happens to our whole, aging, our body and our performance and the chronic diseases, how they're all tied together. But what's really interesting is some of us obviously don't eat what you call so-called healthy food. And many of us believe we are actually eating healthy without realizing that what we have been taught to be healthy actually may be unhealthy for us right now. And that to me is the biggest thing that we noticed was a lot of the high performing athletes, it's not that they go out there and having burger and fries because they don't think it's, they think it's good for them, right? But a lot of people are eating things like spinach and kale and broccoli and, cabbage and Brussels sprout, thinking they're actually, or green beans, that are eating healthy food. It turns out that for many of us, including me, those were exactly the things that were causing inflammation in my body, making me feel tired, had bloating and gas, and literally drained the energy out of me. And when I stopped eating some of these foods, over time, suddenly my body recovered and my microbiome changed, and I'm able to enjoy some of these foods now. But the fact is, just because the Popeye told us spinach is good for you, we have to believe that Popeye was not a scientist and he didn't really know the personalized medicine at that time.
So there's a little science you're saying behind, like, depending on where we're from. Maybe somebody who comes from 10 generations in Alaska, maybe they have a different, gut biome. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's not about where you come from. That is a very small portion of that. So your genes have some small control over what happens to you. And maybe I think we jumped too fast into this idea. I was going to still step back for a second and just look at us as a human body. So if you step back and saying, who are we as humans? What we realize is 99% of all the genes that are expressed in our body are not our own. So let's just be very clear here that what we think is our genetics that we get from our mom and dad, that's what makes us who we are. And what we have realized is less than 5% of the diseases that we see are actually fully penetrant. That means 5% of the diseases are actually governed by our genetics. 95% of everything from depression to anxiety, high performance athletes. Now you're looking at diabetes, obesity, heart diseases, all different types of cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism. All of these diseases are not genetic diseases. These are the diseases of what I call lifestyle diseases. And the reason is our body is an ecosystem. And this ecosystem consists of 39 trillion, let's just be very clear, 39 trillion microbes in our gut alone, over a trillion microbes in our mouth and the saliva. There are trillions of them all over us on our skin and every part of our body, in our nasal cavities, in our ear cavities, all over. These microbes are not the parasites. These are what I call the symbiotic relationship. So when we eat our food, remember our mom used to say, chew your food. Not because you need to bite the thing into small pieces somehow, because that the guys down there don't know how to eat big pieces. When you chew your food, what you're really doing is mixing the oral microbiome, giving a chance the oral microbiome to actually mix with the food, digest that food, pre-digest that food, convert that food into the things that the gut microbes can now digest, right? So what's really happening is when you're chewing your food, your oral microbiome is actually converting the chemicals in the food into different entities. Some of those things can now be absorbed by our human body in the small intestine. The rest of the goes into our large intestine called colon, and where the 39 trillion microbes now get to have fun with that, right? And these guys actually are our friends. If we feed them the right things, they produce the vitamins and supplements and the stuff that our body needs. So, for example, our body doesn't know how to produce butyrate, it doesn't know how to digest fiber. What happens is when we eat fiber, it goes to our colon, and our gut microbes actually ferment this fiber. And in turn, they release things called short chain fatty acids, which is what our body needs. So, these are things like butyrate, the propionate, and the acetate. These exactly the type of things. They produce vitamin B, they produce vitamin K, and these are literally the things that our body needs. Our 70% of our immune system, Joe, is along our gut lining. That means our immunity and our immune health is actually governed largely by our gut microbiome. So much so, now they have proved whether people, when they get infection, whether it is COVID or flu, how severe that infection is depends on your gut microbiome. That means how does your immune system is trained. The other very interesting thing is that even the cancer therapy, now they have proven whether not only the cancer is caused and progressed by the microbes. So our microbiome is now found in the tumors. They looked at 17 different types of cancers and they found the unique microbiome inside the tumor. But here is very interesting. Even the chemotherapy or immunotherapy, their effectiveness of how effective they're going to be in treating the cancer also depends on your gut microbiome. That means how gut microbiome and the immune system is interacting well together or not. And here are some of the very interesting data that is starting to come out now. They took 18 people who were completely addicted to alcohol, and they simply changed their microbiome using a fecal transplant. And let's not get into details of that, but just changing the gut microbiome, their addiction to alcohol went away. Another professor researcher did the same thing with autistic kids. And even 2 years later, 50% of the autistic symptoms were gone. Now imagine what just happened here. These diseases we thought were somehow we are born with. These are genetic diseases and nothing that we can do. And suddenly, by changing the gut microbiome, we are finding that we can control our diseases. What does that really mean? Are they really our brain are the puppet masters, and we are simply our brain and our body is simply the puppet to these puppet masters? And that is something really interesting, that when we look at the ecosystem, it's not they're the master and we are the puppet. It's really the symbiotic relationship. They work with us, and if we don't do well for them, our body doesn't do well.
It's funny. I think I was in 8th grade, and I had to write a report on symbiosis.
Yes.
And so it's been, I really got a deep understanding of it a long time ago. And for those of you watching or listening, what we're saying here is that we've got these bugs. Let's just put it in layman's terms. We got these bugs, but they're good bugs, and there's lots of them, and they're all over our body. And if we treat them right and we eat right, those bugs can do wonderful things for us. They can keep out diseases. They could reverse diseases. But if we get the wrong bugs, or we have a lack of good bugs because we eat shitty food and we have a poor lifestyle, then they're not there, or they can't do good for us, and there's lots of repercussions. I mean, basically, that's what we're saying.
Well, kind of what we're saying. So it's not that we lack the good bugs or we have bad bugs. Actually, it is the same bugs can produce good things or bad things depending on what we feed them, right?
We'll be right back to this interview, but I want to talk to you a little bit about Gone Rogue chips. These are not your ordinary chips. They have less than 2 carbs per ounce. They're made for people like you. They're made from real, fresh chicken, never from frozen, and it's baked to a crunch and seasoned with spices. They have flavors like chicken bacon, barbecue chicken, buffalo-style chicken, teriyaki chicken, and the flavors don't come from bottled smoke flavor. The chicken is smoked in a smokehouse with a blend of hickory hardwoods for an authentic smoky taste. So the Gone Rogue chips, they're light, they're fast, they're great for before or after your workout. They're easy, they're super portable. It's an easy way to get your fix with a crunch of a chip and the protein of a jerky. Visit Amazon or GoneRogueSnacks.com and use the promo code Spartan25 to get 25% off.
It's not that we lack the good bugs or we have bad bugs. Actually, it is the same bugs can produce good things or bad things depending on what we feed them, right? So if we put them in a right atmosphere, we feed them, the good people can become bad people, and the bad people can become good people in the right environment. So it's not like we have bad bugs and there's nothing we can do because we are born with them and I'm stuck with those bad bugs. What am I going to do about it? It's not that. If you feed the right thing, what happens is these bugs actually produce the right things. And the other bugs that are always good, now you're feeding them well, so they take over, and the bad guys actually have no way to even put any control on our body, right? So what happens is you're increasing the size of the good stuff. You're making them bulky so they can fight the battle with the other bad ones, right? And feed the bad ones the right thing so they produce the good things, and they're no longer producing the toxins that are causing the inflammation in our body. And that is the number one key. If you want to be the Spartan, the best thing you can do is to squeeze the high performance of your body, is to really understand what you are eating and how it is going to impact your body. There is no such thing as universal healthy food or universal healthy supplement. And that is, if that's one message, Joe, we can get out to people is, you can't believe just because it worked for some other person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Just because it worked for you 6 months ago or 9 months ago doesn't mean it's no longer beneficial to you, or it is actually not harming you. And that is the key, is to know that our body is changing and adapting. And if you don't adopt our nutrition and our food with that, it is going to harm you. And I can give you many examples. So once we realize that food is a medicine and the nutrition is what we need, our body simply lives on nutrition. It doesn't care how the nutrition is coming to it, whether we are actually giving the food that is eaten by the microbes, and microbes are pooping out the things that is our body actually absorbing. So it's really a micro poop for our practical example, and technical term is metabolites, but they really are the output of the microbes that our body is absorbing. Or we can give the direct nutrients to our body, and we know them. I mean, these are the supplements that we're talking about here. So you can give the food extracts in a supplement form. You can give the minerals, herbs, digestive enzymes. You can, have the things like precursor to NAD. And lot of your listeners have probably have heard that, hey, if you want to increase your longevity or you increase your energy, you should take the things that improve your mitochondria, or take NAD, that or NAD precursor that's going to improve your longevity. And what we found is, in some people it works, in other people it actually harms. So if you have high inflammation, and if you have high cellular senescence, and the last thing you want to do is to take NAD precursor, because what happens is when you take NAD, it increases the mitochondrial biogenesis, that produces more oxidative stress, that produces more free radical, and that turns into more cellular senescence, more inflammation, and you're in fact reducing your age. And same thing, we found a lot of the people who are actually on these fat diet like keto diet or paleo diet, they are the worst offender of your biological age. And you and I were just talking before that biological age is something you can control. You cannot control chronologically how old you are. From the time you're born, you're going to every single day, you chronologically are aging. But if you eat right and take the right set of personalized supplements, you can actually reverse your aging. So I'm 61 chronologically, but my biological age is 49. And I think I'm looking at you, Joe, you're probably still in your teens. I mean, 19 probably, right? You're so fit, right? And that's really the key is, so what we do at Viome is really interesting. We analyze your gut microbiome through touch of a stool. We take a few drops of your blood and now going to be adding saliva to it. And then we literally tell you, this is what's happening in your body. You have very high sulfide production. This is your cellular health. This is your mitochondrial health. This is your gut health. This is your immune health. This is how you respond to stress. And by the way, this is your biological age. And then we give you more in-depth score of what is going on. But then we get down to what do you do about it? For each things we say, here are the foods you should eat and why. And here are the foods you should avoid and why. So it says, for me, don't eat bell pepper because I have this pepper mold virus in my gut that is going to be fed by that, is going to cause inflammation. Don't eat broccoli because I have very high sulfide production, and the broccoli contains a lot of sulfate that's going to convert into sulfide. Don't eat spinach right now because my oxalic acid in spinach is not being digested properly, may cause a kidney stone, right? And then it tells you your score for immune health is really poor, and here is what you need. You need 7 milligram of elderberry, you need 22 milligrams of curcumin, you need 13 milligram of amylase, you need 79 milligram protease, and we literally make those capsules with those ingredients in that dosage right at that moment. You say, I want that, and we literally make that capsule. It's not like these capsules are pre-made and we just put them in a sachet and put your name on it. We literally make every single thing for you at that day. And as your body changes, we reanalyze your body and we readjust your nutrients every 6 months. And that has never been done. So we're literally looking inside your body, showing you where the rashes are inside your body and telling you how you can get rid of these rashes so you can be at your peak performance when you are, whether you are an athlete, the highest performance, or you simply want to actually not have the simple things, even like bloating or gas, or you have, some type of joint pains, or how well you recover from your exercise also depends on your gut microbiome.
And how is it being received? What are people saying that are going through the program?
Joe, I just wish you could read the emails that we get every single day. So we now have 250,000 people that have taken the test, and we get hundreds of thousands. We have gotten probably at least 100,000 emails that people's life have changed. From acne is gone to eczema is gone. People are talking, they're not taking drugs for autoimmune diseases. We have had people who have had these diseases for 10 years and saying, this is the first time in my life I actually have no longer have depression or anxiety. People are so literally losing weight. People are having more energy and they sleep better. Right. And so not only they feel better, but here is the best part, Joe. When everyone who joins not only is helping themselves, but they're also contributing how we can understand what causes people to have diseases, so we can actually find a way to prevent the diseases and reverse in the people who have been already too late. And we are working in, on many different ways to use food as a medicine. And sometime when the food is too late, we are working to find out is there a way to develop a vaccine to be able to actually intercept so that people don't progress whether they have a cancer. So we're now working on vaccines for different types of cancer. And we are the biggest breakthrough that we have done, Joe, on Viome side is we are the only company in the world that looks at your gene expression, not your genes, because your genes are not your destiny. Just remember, your genes don't change when you become obese. Remember, your DNA stays the same all your life. So whether you become depressed or you gain 200 pounds or you can't sleep, your DNA is the same. But your gene expression, which is called RNA, is always changing. And we are the only company that looks at RNA. And in fact, we look at messenger RNA, mRNA. And everyone now, mRNA has become a household word because that's all the COVID vaccines, the Moderna and Pfizer, these are mRNA vaccine. And what they really, this mRNA is, this tells your body what to do. And we look at that mRNA so we know exactly what is being produced in your body. Is it good or bad? And how can we adjust it so these messenger RNA are not being produced, that are harmful, and the good ones are being produced. And that is the key, is no one else has ever looked at your messenger RNA in your body gene expression. And that's the reason why we are succeeding where everyone else has failed, Joe.
And what if you can't afford it, or you've learned a bunch of stuff, you're out there in the marketplace. What 3 or 4 or 5 things would you tell people to do on a daily basis based on all this data
Yeah.
you have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first of all,
standards people should live by.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a two-part answer. So first thing is, when we started the company, the cost used to be $1,000. Then we brought it down to 500, to 400, to 300. Now it is down to about $140, $150, right? So we literally sell these things at $10 above our cost. We really make no money on these things, right? And the reason for that is because we're trying to understand how can we actually help the people live better lives, right? Now, to answer your question specifically, what are the things that are just bad for everyone, right? So the things that are normally, we can't tell you what's good for you because it's very different for each person. And what is bad for you may still be good for someone else. But there are certain things that are just bad for everyone, right? So for example, sugar. There is no one we have looked at so far that say, you know what, eat as much ice cream as you want. Really all good for you, right? However, what causes your glucose to go up is very different for different people. Some people, when they eat bread, their glucose goes up. Other people have no impact with the bread. And you and I both know people, some of us can eat bread all day, they never get fat. And some of us just smell bread and we get fat. And now we know which one is who, right? So sugar is bad for everyone. In fact, any processed food is bad for everyone. Anyone who's eating a fried food is bad for everyone. And if you want to eat the good stuff, if you can't really get this thing personalized for you, the best advice I can do is eat as many different varieties of food that are in season that season. That means don't eat the food that's not in season, and don't eat only 1, 2, 3, or 5 types of food. As many different things as you can eat, because then you get a variety of different nutrition for your bugs. In turn, they produce a lot of variety of nutrients that our body needs, right? So that probably would be my general advice if you can't really get something personalized just for you.
What about alcohol?
Yeah, so in general, the alcohol is never good for anything, including your bugs, right? So I don't think the alcohol is good for you. And some people talk about, well, what about the red wine? It has resveratrol. And honestly, you have to drink a case of wine to get few milligrams of resveratrol. You're much better off taking a resveratrol capsules or supplement than actually drinking a case of wine.
So alcohol is no good, sugar is no good. Sleep. I've heard from people I've had on the podcast, Joe, obviously sleep's important, but what's more important is going to bed at the same time and waking up the same time 7 days a week. You agree with that?
I think that, so the couple of things I would say, the sleep is actually very, very important. Without the sleep, our body actually cannot function. This is the time we detox our body. Now, interesting thing is it's about eating what time, because our microbiome have their own circadian rhythm. So does our brain. And what happens is, if we eat at the same time, we tend to sleep very similar time. What really happens is when we change, we eat at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and we eat at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. That is what causes our sleep to be disturbed. So you really want to eat normally around the same time, and you want to eat very light meal before sleeping. In fact, the right approach would be to have a bigger breakfast, a smaller lunch, and the smallest dinner, rather than skip breakfast, have a light lunch, and have a massive dinner. Right? That is a bad approach when it comes to the human health.
So I'm loving this. I'm loving no sugar, no alcohol, eat at the same time, smaller dinner. I like that. I know I feel better. I feel better if I don't eat 4 hours before bed. So,
Absolutely.
right?
In
And then,
fact, Joe, I'm going to tell you a story. You talked about the Jain religion. It's really interesting. The lot of the religious principle came actually somehow anecdotally or scientifically, they were told so. So my parents to date don't eat after sunset. And I don't know, they magically decided the sunset was the time. And the reason was the sun sets about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, or in Seattle now in winter, 4:30, right? And the idea was you will get 3-4 hours before sleeping. So they just made the rule no meal after sunset. And that allows people to have 4 hours of gap before they go to sleep. And they made that part of the religion. So everybody follows, right?
I like this religion. I like this. But you're right. A lot of the religious fasts and so forth are very good for your health. So they figured this out a long time ago before they had all the science we have today. How about water?
So I think the water is, of course, the most of our body is water. A majority of our thing in the body is water. So water is one nutrition that I think you should eat. But again, you can get water poisoning. So it's not like if you just keep put a tap of water constantly in your mouth that's going to help you. It actually could hurt you. So point in moderation, the water is a very good thing. I mean, I think that regular thing that people talk about having 8 ounces, eight glasses. I think that's a great idea.
You're
And with
awesome.
that, I think I should drink some water.
You're awesome. So, and Spartan tea. We should have Spartan tea. You're gonna like this. I have to send Marion. We have to send Naveen some Spartan tea. This was Hippocrates and Socrates tea. No
Yeah.
joke. We found it in Sparta, Greece, and it translates from ancient Greek to English. He is of iron. We added he or she is of iron. But this is just no caffeine. Just I'm drinking some right here, and I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you some. But
So
you're awesome.
honestly, here's
Right.
Joe. If I can talk personal stuff, I'll tell you. Every day morning, this is what I do. I take water, and I grate fresh turmeric. So I grate fresh turmeric in the water, fresh ginger. Then I powdered cardamom, powdered cloves, a little bit of black pepper, and we actually just let it boil in the water. So you're really getting this really the taste of all these spices and herbs together. And then I put a touch of oat milk on top, and that's literally is that tea I drink. And sometimes I throw in just a little bit of black tea in there, but I'm going to actually start putting a Spartan tea in there. And I tell you what, it does wonders for you. So take a fresh turmeric roots and just grate it right there, and have fresh ginger.
You
Cloves are very good for you. Cardamoms are really good for you. And I also put a little bit of what? Oh my God, fennel seeds.
send me those ingredients if you don't mind in an email.
Absolutely,
I'm gonna
absolutely, I will.
I'm gonna mix them up with ground up Spartan tea, and we'll make the Naveen Desena batch.
Let it go. Love it. Let's go do that.
All right, you're awesome. Thanks for coming. And look, I'm gonna live about 20 years longer because I know you.
Well, first of all, I'm going to be living 40 years longer just because I get to see how young you look.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up Podcast. Spartan Up is your partner in resilience for mind, body, and spirit. We're here 3 days every week. Tuesdays, you can find Joe Desena, founder and CEO of Spartan, interviewing biohackers, business leaders, authors, and athletes. Thursdays and Saturdays, catch episodes from our DECA, Endurance, Trail, Combat, and La Ruta series. Do you know someone who needs a little nudge? Maybe they could use some motivation, tactics to be stronger, healthier, happier, more successful? Tell them about our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. We want to know who's watching and who's listening. Thanks. See you next time. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Gone Rogue High Protein Chips. Visit Amazon or GoneRogueSnacks.com and use the promo code Spartan25 to get 25% off.